Decline the invitation. So part 2, in other words, decline the invitation part 2, because I made a part 1 on this video. I'm gonna put it in the description bar a couple of months ago. And I'm talking about declining the invitation. So I think I spoke to you guys a little bit before in the past about humiliation rituals and what those look like, and how in order for a humiliation ritual to be a humiliation ritual, it has to be done in front of a large group of people, right? So these really are rituals. Like, a lot of times when we hear these things, we think that they're like not really that important and that they don't really matter, and that whatever, that's just some extreme saying or some extreme wording. But humiliation rituals are real. They do get done. And when they get done on the target, it usually has to happen publicly. So the last time I made a video on decline the invitation, it was based on Corinne Steffens and her on the Tyra Banks show. And I also talked about Drea Michelle and how she was treated when she went on the Wendy Williams show. And the reason why a lot of women have to be very, very cautious is because sometimes people will invite you into spaces to humiliate you publicly. And you don't think that's what's going to happen. Like, you don't think that it's a setup. Like, you're not thinking that. You're thinking, oh, wow, these people really want to interview me. Or, oh, wow, these people really want to talk to me. But that's really not what they want to do. They just want you to think that so they can get you in a position where they can humiliate you without you having the ability to fight back, because it's being done publicly. You feel like you have to hold your composure. So in a way, it's kind of like they're tying your hands so they can have the freedom to humiliate you. It's a very cowardly move that people do, but they do that because they truly fear your power. So because you have a lot of power, they want to make a ritual out of your power, which is why they do a humiliation ritual. So we saw this happen with Toni Braxton, when she got on Oprah Winfrey's show. And mind you, Toni Braxton was super excited to get on the show with Oprah Winfrey. She was excited. I think she looked up to Oprah. I think this was a woman that she was excited to sit with and talk with. And she was completely heartbroken and completely destroyed after the way she was treated from being on the show and the energy that was being thrown at her from being on the show. Now, me knowing what I know at this age, I'm aware and I know that women do things like that. That's why you have to be very careful with what a woman's motives is. That's why I always tell you guys to pray to God and ask for discernment and ask for intuition, because you don't know what their motives are. You really don't know. Like, does this person really like me? Do they really want to collaborate with me? Or is this something else? Because you'll never really know. And that's unfortunately what happened to Toni Braxton on the Oprah Winfrey show. So let's talk a little bit about how these invitations are created and the masterminds behind these humiliation rituals. So these invitations are usually created by somebody who has been watching the target for a long time. They may be watching you online. They may be watching you on social media. They may be listening to you on podcasts. They may be watching you from afar at church, or they may be watching you from afar at work. They kind of already know the power you hold before they invite you. Okay, the invitation is just a way for them to get you to let your guard down. But they already know the power you hold from the minute they laid eyes on you. And that's why they wanted to make a ritual out of you. They wanted to make an example out of you. That's why in Hollywood, sacrificing people is very popular, because when someone is very powerful and you're able to sacrifice them, when they leave the land of the living, you get to take that energy and push your business forward or push your music career forward. So when someone is inviting you somewhere, or part of a decline the invitation scenario, to bring you into a public area where they have the freedom to publicly humiliate you because your hands are tied and you're on camera, or you're in front of your boss, or you're in front of a big group of people and you can't say anything, they are purposefully doing that. And that's really how sadistic people can get. So decline the invitation. There was a time that something very similar to this happened to me, and it was a humiliation ritual. And this was a humiliation ritual done at a church where I should have declined the invitation. It was done at a prophetic church, but I'm actually going to save that for another video because I want to do a full video on that. I want to fully debunk that. I want to fully dissect the humiliation ritual that this quote unquote prophet did to me, false prophet, obviously, and go through how sadistic it was and how much this man planned this for weeks or even months before it actually happened. So because it's so detailed, I'm going to save that for another video because these kind of things, these humiliation rituals are extremely popular in Hollywood. And second to Hollywood, they are extremely popular in religious settings. They are done a lot in religious settings. I've had humiliation rituals being done on me since I was 5 years old. It's probably the first one that I had. So I'm going to save that. Let's save that. Let's save the best for last. But decline the invitation. So when you're being invited by another person, you have to try to find out what their motives are. Okay? Sometimes people will invite you into specific circles because they want to be able to put you on the spot, or they want to have the opportunity to tear you to shreds in front of a group of other people because they know that you're going to feel too afraid to respond. Sometimes decline the invitation. Sometimes this even happens virtually online where someone will say, hey, let's do a collab together. Let's do a Zoom class together. And the entire time that you guys are on the class, this person is cutting you off, is telling you you don't know what you mean, is telling you they don't agree, and is coming in with this very aggressive approach towards you because in reality, they really probably don't like you. They're probably not fond of you. And they just want to put you in a compromising position in front of other people where you can't respond to what they're doing. I actually saw an example of this one time where I was watching this lady online on TikTok, and she's like I'm not going to say a prophet, but she's one of those religious church page girlies. And I remember she was having a live with her. Well, she was invited to get on a live with a guest and 2 other guests. And as I was watching the live, I noticed that every time she was asked a question by a viewer and she answered it, the person that invited her on the live would chastise her. So within the 5 minutes that I was watching it, every time a viewer would ask her a question and she would answer it, the person that invited her to be on the live would say, oh, no, but that's not right. Oh, no. And at first, when it happened the first time, I'm like, okay, I'll give it a pass. But once it kept happening, I'm like, she should have declined this invitation. And she's in the middle of a humiliation ritual and she doesn't even recognize it. So you have to be very, very careful with the invitations that you accept from other people. And you truly have to fill out the vibe before you do. Sometimes this actually happened to me. This was a humiliation ritual that happened to me when I was in high school. And it was actually done by my family. This happens in families. And sometimes with family, you have to decline the invitation from family as well. That's another major thing because they do this too. There was a baby shower happening and we decided that, we had a couple bumps in the road with family around that time. And we thought we were like, okay, you know what? We're just going to decline the invitation. We're not going to go. But they're like, no, you guys have to come. This is family. Leave the past in the past. You guys have to come. Leave the past in the past. We should have stuck to declining the invitation, but we decided to go. And, just in summary, we got publicly humiliated in front of all of the baby shower guests. We were yelled at, screamed at. A family member tried to get physical with us. And we were just like, yep, this is what it was. This was decline the invitation / humiliation ritual moment. So because I know these things exist, I operate in life with such caution. I decline invitations all the time, whether it's to collab, whether it's to come on a podcast, decline those. Sometimes I actually decline those a lot. whether it's to go to a party, go to an event, because my spirit kind of has a way. And I would ignore this when I was younger. When I was a young girl growing up, I would ignore these feelings. And it's truly a gift that God gave to me, but I would ignore these feelings where I just have an inner compass where I know where and where not to go. Like, I just know. I have a feeling when something is truly a genuine invitation and when something is an invitation / humiliation ritual. So you really have to check in with your spirit and check in with yourself to ask yourself, like, what am I walking into right now? I remember I had a colleague a couple years ago. She was actually super cool, and we would talk all the time at work, and like we got along great. And she was explaining about how a friend of hers was inviting her, oh, come to this pool party, come to this pool party, come to this pool party. And something in her spirit was telling her to not go. But she said, you know what? I'm not doing anything this Saturday. I'm going to go. And when she went to the pool party, they invited her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend to the pool party without telling her. They just wanted her to walk in and see that. And this girl was really the girl that her ex-boyfriend cheated on her with, that is now in the relationship with him. So they invited her to truly, honestly be messy. So she had the feeling that she should have declined the invitation, but she didn't. And that's similar to kind of, Tamar Braxton's story, where it's like, that's why I always tell you guys, just because you see someone online or you like what they're presenting to you, that doesn't mean that that's who they are. If you don't know them personally, or you don't have the gift of discernment to sense who they truly are, you don't know that person. So I personally am not a fan of any celebrity. I'm not a fan of anyone. I can't be, because I don't know them on a personal level to be a fan of them. People are very good at putting on a mask when they're in front of the camera. They're very good at that. It's not until you have a personal encounter with them when cameras are off and they're not on a stage that you truly know who that person is. So you shouldn't be a fan of anyone or vouch for anyone. And that is the mistake that Tamar Braxton made, which is why she was so disappointed on the Oprah Winfrey Show.